Hi everyone, it's LadyJenevia. Today's video is going to be a review of The Boys Season 2, Episode 7. I'm going to try to keep it fairly quick for a lot of these characters because there are specific ones that I definitely want to go more in depth with. So here is your obligatory spoiler warning. Before we jump into the different characters, we need to talk about the most iconic homage of the entire episode. I have mentioned this in previous reviews of The Boys, but this show has repeatedly referenced not just the DCEU, but more specifically Zack Snyder's creative vision that jump-started the DCEU. In this episode, they made the most blatant reference to BVS that they have done to date. More specifically, the courtroom scene where Superman comes in and does not realize until it's too late that Lex Luthor has snuck a bomb in using a man's wheelchair and killed the light of my life, Mercy Graves, as portrayed by Tao Okamoto. Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor can die for that, and I will not apologize for saying that. So in watching this new episode of The Boys, as soon as they showed the interior of that room with everyone gathering for this hearing, I immediately said, this is a BVS reference. They have this man who enters the room who is physically disabled. He's rolling up into that courtroom, and I said, even louder, this is a BVS reference. Something is about to blow up, and my mind started jumping from one thing to another, because at first I thought, well, the room is going to blow up, but then I saw certain people that were in this room. They're superheroes, they're members of the Seven, but I don't necessarily know if they are fire resistant. And considering that this has happened right after we've seen Lamplighter set himself on fire, we have clearly established that just because you are a superhero with superpowers does not mean that you are resistant to fire. So then I'm thinking to myself, okay, they cannot do the scene exactly the way they did it in BVS. So maybe there will be some type of explosive ending, and of course, they did their BVS homage, but they still gave it a very distinct flavor that is unique to The Boys. No one can make you flabbergasted quite like The Boys. I loved it though. Shout out to all the creative higher-ups running this show. You have excellent taste. Zack Snyder, would you like to have a cameo on The Boys? I myself am not in the position to offer that, but I'm just presuming that if I put that out into the universe, it can happen. Why shouldn't it happen? If you, the viewer, would like to join me in attempting to manifest this, then by all means feel free to do so. The way they had everyone's heads exploding, it was so spot on. Next up we have The Deep and A-Train. These writers just keep laying it on very thick about what it is that this storyline is addressing. You know, I get comments almost every week of people asking me what religion it is that I'm refusing to say the name of. If you have not figured it out by now, surely this week has done enough for you to be able to do so. Did you notice how the church turned on a former member of their religion, Eagle the Archer to be more specific, and labeled him a toxic personality because he said that the religion's methods did not work for him? Did you notice how then all of the current members of the church were ordered to turn against him because he had claimed that their program didn't help him? They used the phrase toxic personality. That sounds a lot like suppressive person. I'm just saying. See, now I've gone and done it. I'm gonna be on a list now. Please don't get mad at me. I did not write the show. I am merely observing what they said. Please don't come after me. Next, we have Maeve. You can't help but get a bit heartbroken for her. That was not the happy ending that any of us wanted for her, I'm sure. It would be so nice if she could just have a cute, fluffy, run away with your girlfriend story, but that's not how things work on The Boys. In the grand scheme of things, it's probably safer for her girlfriend to run off as things are clearly going to escalate, particularly now that Maeve has saved Annie, which was everything. And hey, we finally got the answer to the question I raised a few weeks back about the almond joys in what I believe was episode 4 of this season. Black Noir got annoyed at the woman that was working in IT because she had an almond joy and he threw it out. And they also had Annie and Huey playfully bickering about whether or not almond joys tasted good. Now I believe all of that was done to further embed the seed that they were planting of people remembering that almond joys are important. And the reason they are important is because for as strong and seemingly impervious as Black Noir has been presented for the entire run of the show thus far, we now finally know what his weakness is. He is allergic to tree nuts. I don't actually believe that Black Noir is dead though. I think he has been incapacitated for the time being. I don't know if he will be present for the season finale, but at least now we have an awareness that there is a weakness that can be exploited if the occasion calls for it. So I would not be surprised if it were to get brought back up again in the future. Maybe Huey is going to arm himself with a gun that shoots out tree nuts. It would be ridiculous, but I'm sure the boys could pull it off. We also got a more intense soup on soup fight between Black Noir and Annie, and that was very cool to watch. I like that they have paced the scale of the soup on soup fights just right so that they've left room to escalate these brawls in a way that makes sense and flows well within the story. Final note about Maeve is that I really enjoyed that she had that moment with Ashley where she just asked her to be human for once, and Ashley genuinely apologized to her and agreed to give Maeve that brief bit of time to grieve about this loss. Ashley always has that really aggressive publicist energy that's just really a lot. So it's nice that they've taken that moment to humanize her a bit. Butcher's material was a bit disappointing, to be honest. When Carl Urban posted that photo with John Noble and said that he was going to be playing Butcher's father, I was really excited, and I'm sure a lot of other people were as well. John Noble is awesome, and he can definitely serve up some excellent drama. And the confrontation was just so short-lived, and when you compare it to the laundry list of other things that were happening in this episode, all of these dramatic moments, by comparison, it didn't necessarily compare. I think that this type of very raw human conflict would have been better suited, tonally speaking, to something like episode 4 when everyone was having these heart-to-hearts with one another and opening up and exploring themselves psychologically. I'm not saying it was terrible though. I do think it's good that we now know more about Butcher's origins and how he lost his brother. He has this bad relationship with his father. It's important context for why he is the way that he is, but to do it this late in episode 7 when everything else is popping off and being dramatic in the plot, no pun intended, popping off. Wow, I don't know. If I hadn't taken the time to write out notes on this episode and write up what it is that I wanted to talk about in this review, I might have forgotten to mention this particular interaction because, comparatively speaking, it just didn't leave as much of a lasting impression as some of the other character moments and dramatic things that happened in the plot. The other note I will say about Butcher is that the almost unnecessarily long shot of him sipping out of a teacup, it was almost giving off the impression like they only filmed it that way so that people could make GIFs out of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I will definitely use that GIF, but maybe try to be a little bit more organic with how you're filming and editing things in a way that doesn't come across like you're so aware of internet culture and you know that this will make for a good GIF that you're going to leave it in that way. I don't think it needed to be as long as it was. The show has more than enough going for it on its own merits that people are going to make edits and GIFs and fan cams. You don't need to push it that extra bit. What else? Oh yeah, Becca is definitely pregnant, though you are not going to convince me otherwise unless they go through several more episodes and they decide to not go that route. But for me, it just makes sense. It fits. You have Butcher blackmailing and threatening, so he can presumably try to get Becca free. But then once they're reunited, he's going to have to help her get her other son back while also panicking and having to confront his own demons, because you can't go around being demonic while you are about to have a son with your long lost, thought to be dead wife. This is not the Covenant, sweetie. No demonic parents allowed. Next, we have Homelander and Stormfront. Oh boy, this was the character cluster that really got my wheels turning. We're not even talking about Homelander manipulating his son into turning against Becca. I know for a lot of people that was a really big gut punch moment, along with Stormfront radicalizing her followers through fear-mongering until they start enacting violence against others, which admittedly was a powerful episode opener, but what I'm talking about had a whole other set of alarm bells going off. Let's take it back to when Homelander and Stormfront were at the rally. Stormfront was manipulating him. Now follow me through this. She started looking at the baby and playing on those parental emotions. And what happened? He took her to meet his child. You know what? At this point, I don't even think she ever had a child. I think that was just a photo she took with some old lady. Hell, she could have even had one of her minions Photoshop it. We know she has minions that are internet savvy. They make memes for her. I think she's been manipulating him all this time to try to get to his son. Think about it. She was married to the founder of Vought, and she's been around for a while. So she could have found out about his son through one way or another. But let's just say that she could not get a hold of the location of his son. At first I thought, oh well, if she has access to his son, she will have complete control over Homelander. So if you control Homelander, you control the Seven. But then I thought, nope, that's not it. She meets Homelander's son, and what does she say to his son? She says, "You are the first natural-born superhero." She wants to harvest this child or do whatever types of experimentations are necessary to get the information that she needs from his genetics to make her experiment work. Then she will finally be able to stabilize the compound V so they can turn adults into powered individuals. Remember what she said in the past? It was something along the lines of how she doesn't have followers, she has an army. I might have messed up the details, but I could have sworn it was something to that effect. What she is doing is like eugenics on steroids. So she can create a master race and order these new soups that she has already brainwashed into following her to exterminate any and all groups that she deems inferior because she is a Nazi. Boom. Cracked it. Let's see how right or wrong I am when we see the season finale, but that's my theory for the time being. And if I got a sufficient amount of this information correct, and you work for Amazon and you are mad at me for cracking it early and putting it online, well then maybe for next season you should have your publicists actually respond to me and send me the screeners like I asked for in advance, because if you give me screeners to watch things early, I will never ever leak what is happening in the season early. I respect embargo dates. But if you don't give me the screeners and I just put the pieces together and I crack it early, there's nothing you can do to stop me from just saying it here on my channel. Now that was one of the main plot points that really had me worked up. Compared to that, the rest of my character talking points are not anywhere near as in-depth. I was surprised about what happened with Lamplighter. It felt a bit abrupt, but I don't necessarily believe that he's dead. He could be dead. If he is in fact dead, fair enough, but I don't think the manner of death was presented in a way where it would be impossible for him to still be alive. Also, Compound V is a thing. You can't tell me that they don't have a way to get him semi-functional again. I'm a bit skeptical about him being able to get his hand back though. I think it's been cut off and I think it will stay that way, but while we're there, can we talk a bit though about how cute it was that Huey was so determined to save Annie? And I love that they're planting the seeds for Annie's mom to be charmed by him, since he was the one that broke her out of her cell and also had the hand that they needed to get out of Vought. Annie's mom really bothered me though. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense for her to be stupid enough to call into Vought to try to let them know about meeting with Annie and getting her some time off, but it's just annoying is all I'm saying. Terminal stupidity in secondary characters gets old very quickly. But hey, at least now she's at the boys' lair, so we're finally catching up to more of the promotional content. And you know what that means? We are leading up to the point of Frenchie giving Kimiko a bazooka. And apparently that's going to happen in the season finale, since we still haven't seen that. Yes, here we go. I am ready for it. Now, for the pièce de résistance. Frenchie and Kimiko. Oh my god. Frenchie's name is Serge. How are we feeling? Do we love it? Are we emotional? He has a real name now. I'll admit I'm still in favor of just continuing to call him Frenchie, because it's just so cute. It's such a cute name and he's adorable. I love that we finally got a cute domestic adjacent scene between them. It has been far too long since we got one of those, since they've been on the run. There's no time to bake together, as much as I would love to see that. The way he started going on tangents about food. See, food is Frenchie's love language. Is that a stereotype? Maybe, but French people, is that an offensive stereotype to you? A French character being passionate about food? Because I'm passionate about food. Did you all know that the Japanese word for bread is borrowed from the Romance languages? French is a Romance language, as is Spanish, Italian, Portuguese. So how do you say bread in French? Pain, or I suppose le pain. But either way, guess how you say bread in Japanese? Pain. What's that I hear? Is it the sound of soulmates? Bonjour, Frenchie. Talk to me about baguettes. Did we all hear Frenchie being emotionally intelligent and open and understanding about grief and loss when he said that people die a second time the last time someone says their name? Okay, as the great philosopher and Asian icon Keanu Reeves once said when asked what happens when we die, I know the ones that love us miss us. So what does Frenchie do with that bit of knowledge? What does he say to the love of his life, Kimiko? I'd like to hear about your family. Maybe we could talk about them sometime if you would like to teach me. He's asking her to teach him how to speak her language. The way he communicates so efficiently with her to share what it is that he would like from her, but ultimately leave it up to her whether or not she does that. Is Frenchie the only man ever? Possibly. So then she decides of her own volition to teach him her language. And the first word she starts with is gun. Because their lives are so drenched in violence. It's poetic. It makes sense. The way this episode snapped, the power that they have as a couple, the way I'm about to have just an emotional breakdown after I film this, it's fine. I'm fine. But it's not fine. I'm never going to be fine. Now, for a couple of other things that I want to get to before I close off this video, my Knives Out video. I have uploaded it almost every day over the last week, a new version of it because it keeps getting copyright blocked, so I keep tweaking it, making these minor adjustments, trying to swerve it. I've never had this much difficulty with a video, but I'm going to keep trying. I don't know who at Lionsgate decided that this was the set of rules they wanted to have for how their material is detected and copyright blocked on YouTube, but I don't think you're great at your job. I think you're getting in the way of people creating work that is transformative about your content, thus depriving it of the opportunity to be further publicized. I think you should get transferred to a different department, but that's not my area, so there's really nothing I can do about it except be sassy about it on the internet. Finally, one other thing that is new, I'm going to be posting some interviews on here. I'm really looking forward to sharing them with all of you. I am a new guest host on the Lightcast podcast, and I have gotten permission to repost those interviews on my channel as well. They will not be posted on here first, of course. They will go up on all of Lightcast's channels and outlets, their way of sharing interviews. So if you want to follow them first, and see them there before they arrive here, that's fine. But I also wanted to try to make it easier for people to find what it is that I'm doing, and I'm having a lot of fun. Right before I filmed this, I did an interview with Meg DeLacy from Stargirl, and I also interviewed Joy Osmansky, who is also from Stargirl, and we did that interview yesterday, and that interview is now live. It went live this morning, so keep an eye out for those. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. All of those things really help out my channel. And follow me on social media as well. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Vero. See you in the next one. Bye.